Well, this is Bogi, and this is Bogi's roadmap to success. You saw me wave. Bogi, because he's deaf, instead of using a marker sound or marker word, this is his marker, a wave. First started doing it with two waves, hands, but I recognized that it's better with one so we can actually use our other hand to do stuff. So the first thing we went over really was, after his backstory, went over marker words and how to load the marker words. So if you guys haven't already done this, by the time you see this, you should have already done this. So I'd like you guys to grab about 12 or 15 treats, walk around the house, and all you got to do is just wave, give them that treat, then walk somewhere else, wave, give them that treat. And you saw that was easier than that two-hand deal. So remember, the marker word, or in this case, the marker action, is an indicator to him that he did what we want. So as soon as his butt hits the ground, I'd wave and then give him that treat if I wanted to get him to sit. Now, if I'm going to lure, most dogs learn through a gesture first. So I'm going to lure him into a sit. I'll show you how to do it. I would go like this and then give him the treat. Now, if I want to incorporate a hand signal, this is the hand signal I use for sit. So I'll show you how I do that too. I go like, well, let me do that again. You went to a sit too fast. So I lure him into a sit. I'm still not doing that right. Deaf dog, it's making me think a little bit. All right, so the order, let me explain the order and then I'll try to demonstrate it. So we want to have the command word, or the cue as we like to see it, a cue signal like this, means to sit. So I would do this, then he sits, then I wave to let him know that's what I wanted, and then I deliver the treat. Now, if I go like this and he doesn't know what it is and I keep on going like this, he's going to start ignoring that. So the reason why we use marker words at first is to get the dog into a habit of doing it, or in this case, a marker signal. So what I would do is go like this, lure him over here. So I do that like 5 or 6 times, and then what I could do is go like this, go. So you sneak in the cue first. You should only use the cue, the hand signal, gesture, whatever it is, when you're 90% certain the dog is going to do the action. And you should only do it once. If you're doing it multiple times, the dog doesn't know it, and dogs will start ignoring emotion or action, thinking it's just gibberish or it's not related. So if you just always back up to do marker only, and after you've done the marker enough, and I usually, when I'm trying to do it, I try to do like I just did there, 4, 8, 10 times in a row, and I do the first 5 or 6 with just the motion. Then I go like this, then I do the motion, then the dog sits, then I wave, and then I give it the treat. And so there will be a while where this and this will both occur at different times. But eventually you would just go like this, the dog's butt hits the ground, and you just give it a treat. You don't need to wave as a marker word because he did what we wanted. That's the goal. So the marker move in this case is something we just use temporarily to make it easy for him to understand what it is we want. The cue is something that we would be an indicator of the behavior we want the dog to do. Now, I'd like the guardians to go and look up deaf dog hand signals. There are some that the guardians can come up with, but the reason why experts are experts is they're taking a lot of other things in consideration. So there might be some big, bold movements that makes it a little bit easier. You can come up with your own if you want, but just make sure you're not too subtle. It shouldn't be like this to mean something. It should be a big movement. For my dogs, this means heel, this means lay down, this means sit. And so if you come up with those. Now, we also went over a focus exercise, so I might even go like, come up with, if you want to use a little Pulp Fiction or whatever. But basically, you want to come up with that signal and that hand signal first. So I would come up with a bunch of the gestures, come up with a list of all the cues your dog has, then go to that list, the deaf dog hand signals, figure out which ones you want to use for that, and practice that. So you do the signal, lure the dog into it, and then give him the treat. Or if you know the dog's going to sit, and he's just sitting here, and he's about to sit, I would go like this, and he sits, and then I would give him the treat, if you can time it that way. And then also, I would like you to look through, kind of come up with like 5 or 6 new cues that you'd like to teach him, and then come up with the hand signal for it and put it on your list as well. This is kind of like your your to-do list. Dogs that know 10 or more cues reach a certain level of confidence, and confident dogs are less likely to be bombastic and barking and stuff like that. So I think if we can teach him some extra cues, it's going to be beneficial in terms of giving us different ways to redirect him. It boosts his self-esteem, and I would like the male guardian in this home to be participating in that so that now the dog sees the male guardian who he currently barks at, as being somebody that's an instructor or an authority figure, somebody that helped me figure some stuff out. So instead of barking at them, I look at them as actually a positive, a good positive influence on my life. Yes, I'm using a marker word for him, but he's deaf. Get yourself a little bell, attach it to his collar, so if he does get loose, you can hear him even if he can't hear you when you're calling to him. Let me see. What else did we go over? We went over the cookie and the, well, I guess we'll get to that one a little bit later. We went over hand targeting. Remember, for hand targeting, when we chop our hand, it's frozen. So what we're going to do, can you come over here? We'll do another one real quick. Come here. So I'm going to chop on either side of his face. I want him to turn his head. I don't want to do it just in front. And I chop it. If he doesn't go for it, then I'm going to pull my hand back and chop closer. So when you chop, make sure it's a big movement like this. So once you chop, that hand is frozen. When the dog looks at touches your hand, wave in front of his face, and then go and deliver him the treat. And that's why getting one of these might help you. So you can keep them in your, instead of having to be crumbs on your counter like we currently have next to the camera, we can have them all contained right here. And he'll get used to it when we go like this, us going over here and reaching over almost like it's a holster or whatever. But then he's like, oh yeah, I'm about to get a treat. So hand targeting, eventually what we're going to do is be able to get to the point where we can get him to go, and then I put the treat there. And if you use those tricky trainer treats that I gave you, the smell is, right there I was using, yes. Well, I didn't do that one right, but that's celebrating. We'll talk about that in a sec. The tricky trainers, I think, would be really helpful for him because it's going to have a strong smell. The beef liver that I'm using, the ones that he really liked, are called Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver. And you can get them on Amazon or Chewy. It's a big tub. If you get it, chop it up into little pieces like I have. It'll be a big chunk. So they just freeze the whole liver and they just drop it on a table. It shatters. So make sure that you chop it, get a serrated edge knife and chop into little pieces. Now that's very, very rich, very high value. He doesn't really get treats except for when he goes in his kennel, and that's about it. So I'd like his guardian to be treating him quite a bit more, but for doing things, not for just no reason, but for doing the stuff. Treating is a good motivation for dogs. It's a way of paying them. Affection is a great way to pay them as well, but we like to have multiple things that we can pay them with. So for the loading exercise, again, you're just gonna, when he's looking at you, you wave, and then give him that treat and walk a couple feet away. And make sure you do this facing different directions, sitting, kneeling down, laying down, standing up. And I would have both of you guys do this. So after, and you only have to do this, I'm going to have you do it more often than we would with a typical clicker loading, because we have to make sure when he sees this, he's a happy dog because he means he's about to get a treat. So you should get to the point where you go like this and he's like coming up to you and looking. If you go like this and he's like looking elsewhere, we probably still need to continue practicing that. So practice that a couple times a day, each one of you, until you get to the point where when we wave, he's like almost drooling or coming up to you, and that's when we've created that classically conditioned response. Let me see. Okay, we also went over the petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is if you would like to pet him or he is asking you to pet him. We're going to ask him to sit or lay down. We're going to ask one time, provided he knows how to do the cue. If we ask him once and he doesn't sit, there's no punishment, there's no retribution. You go on to the next thing. You're building your model, you're watching TV, you're playing video games, or whatever it is. He's the one missing out. If we say it over and over again, then he knows that you're just you got him, he's got you on a string. So instead, I say it once. If you don't do it, that's fine. You do you. I'm on to the next thing, and then he's missing out. And next time he's like, why didn't I sit down? I'd have a treat if I would just, next time I'm going to sit down. And that's the whole point. Now, remember to use the watchword of paycheck. If you suspect your partner is forgotten to pet with a purpose, they say paycheck. Even if you did it right, you stop, lotion the dog into a sit. When he sits, wave at him to say, that's what I wanted, give him a treat, and then explain to your partner, I asked him to sit. You missed it when you didn't see it, but thanks for reminding me. We also went over celebrating. Celebrating is rewarding him when he does things on his own that are things that we also like. So when he sits on his own, when he lays down on his own, when he comes to us, when he gives us eye contact, anything we like, we're going to say the marker, or you can say the marker word, we're going to give him the marker action, and then follow that with a reward. Now, once he does something, we have 2 seconds to give him the marker action. And after the marker action, we got to get that treat in his mouth within 2 seconds. 2 seconds is the maximum for both of these things. It'd be better if we're like waving at him with 1/3 of a second and give him a treat within 1/3 of a second of that. So that's why having treats like this would be really helpful. And get yourself a couple Tupperware so you can have one here in other rooms of the house. That way you don't have to go too far away. If he gets in that barky mood, don't say, oh, he's barking again, darn it. When are we going to fix this? Now is a good time to fix it. So go grab those and then recreate whatever the action is and watch the video above again. Remember, making a smaller step, and sometimes you have to back up multiple steps until you find the step where your dog will sit quietly and be aware of what you're doing without reacting. Remember, if he reacts, he doesn't get a treat. So look at those when he does these barking things as an opportunity to set him up for success and help him practice this to get over it, as opposed to be like, oh, he's barking again. Yes, another opportunity to practice. And I'd like you to practice that exercise at least twice a day for a week. If you take off time, you will really slow down your progress and people get frustrated. So try to just make a list of all the places and all the activities that he barks at, and then start whittling away. I would practice first with the T-man who lives here, and then I would, again, go through your phone, like I mentioned, and start contacting your friends who live nearby who are going to listen, and have them come by one at a time for short visits, like half an hour, 45 minutes, and you do the exercise first. Then he goes into his kennel or in another room and he gets a bully stick or a lick mat or something that he really likes. And then we come back and we do it again. Now, if your friend can sit there quietly, then you could probably just have them, do the exercise a little bit, sit down, we talk for a couple minutes. Make sure that anybody that he barks at, we don't want to have any sudden movements because that's when he's going to bark and he's practicing doing that. Also, make sure you're not moving like he's got his back turned. Oh, I'll do this real quick, because all it takes is him to turn around and he's like, oh, what are you doing? And he's going to really bombastic. So try to avoid doing that. Just try to, even if necessary, kind of tap the floor a couple times to have him hear that vibration. And he looks at you, then you can stand up and wave and give him the treat like we talked about in the video above. Let me see. We also talked about, I believe he has some separation anxiety. And it was very common, especially post-corona. What I would recommend is get a dog bed. Get, again, a dog bed of a light, whatever the color, solid color. I usually prefer light color so that when they throw a dog treat on there, the dog can see it. And they come up with a funny name for this, actually a funny hand signal for the dog. This one was like, this means to go this one, and this means to go the one upstairs, or whatever it is. Again, come up with those hand signals that you like. Leave dog treats on there. Every time he goes out of a walk, leave a dog treat on there. He comes in here, there's another treat here. As soon as he walks away, throw another treat on there. When we teach this in puppy class, we throw a treat on the dog bed, and we usually say the marker's time when the dog goes there. We won't be able to do that. We'll just have to mark with just the reinforcement. So throw the treat there, and he goes and gets it, and then he looks at you, and when he comes back to you, make whatever the motion is that means to go there. Now, if you're throwing a treat, that's pretty strong lure. You're pretty sure the dog's going to do it, so you can anticipate you're in that 90% range. So you go like this, and then throw the treat on the dog bed, and then he goes over there and he gets that reward. And then as soon as he steps off, go like this again, throw another one. Don't let him walk all the way to you. Have him take one step. Eventually, he'll just stay there. Then you can kind of wait like 5 seconds, go like this, and go give him the treat. And then wait 10 seconds, go like this and give him the treat. You can also get bully sticks. You already do. Drill a hole through the back of a bully stick, get a dumbbell, put it on the dog bed, and attach it with a zip tie to the dumbbell. The only place I can chew on this is on the dog bed. So he's practicing being on the dog bed and enjoying being on the dog bed. Power of positive dog training is the dog enjoys the activity, so that is their motivation to want to continue doing it. Let me see. And then again, come up with a different signal for both the dogs. Now, real quick on the video above, I didn't kind of specify this. I'd like the Guardian. He also barks at the Guardian when they're on the adult bed, or the human bed, upstairs. And so what we want to do is practice and recreate that as well. First, just lay down on the bed, call him up on the bed, sit forward, wave at him, give him the treat, and then eventually you're swinging your feet off to the side. Eventually you're taking a step towards the bathroom, 2 steps. Eventually go into the bathroom, come back and give him the treat. Eventually go in the bathroom, flush in the toilet. You're not doing your actual action. But eventually you want to work up to all of that nuance until you going to the bathroom means when you come back here, I'm going to get a treat. That's why we want to have one of those containers in the little nightstand or in the dresser somewhere in the room, so we have one of those available at all times. Now, we talked about also exercise. Now, he does not sniff on the walks. I guess before I go over exercise, if you have a guest that's coming over, you could do the treat trail that I showed you when I first arrived. I would do that like for relatives or people that are not going to listen to your technique. That's going to kind of set them up for success. And so basically, if you get him a little bit of, or set that treat trail up, he's in a pretty good mood, and that person moves around, he probably is still going to bark, but bark a little bit less. It's better if you would have people come over and mindfully practice intentionally on all these activities. But if you do get caught in a pinch, do the treat trail first. Okay, so I'd like to have him getting a walk, at least one walk a day from his male guardian. Doesn't have to be a long walk, but want him to sniff on the walk. So I'd like the guardians to get some Swiss cheese. You can get other cheese as well, just Swiss has the strongest smell. Shred it. Go out ahead of him before you go on the walk and put like a piece over here, a small handful over here, and then walk past the next driveway, put a little small handful over here, then walk him up there. He's going to lick all that up. When he looks at, and then lead him to the next one. After a while, he's going to start saying, there's cheese on the ground. I like cheese. And he's going to start sniffing. Sniffing is relaxing. It's comforting. It burns energy. It's what dogs should do. So if he's sniffing on the walks, when he's on a walk right now, I think his eyes are as big as saucers. He's looking for the boogeyman. So let's make the walk a positive thing and have him get a lot of positive attributes while he's on a walk. And sniffing, that'll make that walk more efficient. Let me see. We also talked about other forms of exercise, getting a snuffle mat, feeding him out of a snuffle mat, getting an Omega Paw Tricky Trainer treat ball, or Tricky Treat Ball, I think is what it's called. Those are get a lick mat. Make sure it's got suction cups on the back side of it. So we feed him twice a day out of a snuffle mat. That's like an extra walk and a half that we sneak in. We do the lick mat, and the lick mat I would do a couple times, but I would kind of try to reserve those. So if you do have a guest come over, instead of maybe him leaving, you could just, if the guest can stay quiet, so you do the counter conditioning exercise in the video above with the guest, then the guest sits down, you guys kind of talk and have a little thing. While you're talking, maybe you hand the guest the lick mat with peanut butter already put on, and the guest puts it down. Remember, the lick mat releases endorphins. So if we only get the lick mat when guests are over, I'm not barking because I'm licking this. It gives me something to do. I'm preoccupied. I'm burning energy. And the guest is the one who provided for me. It only comes out when guests are around. Again, we're building those positive associations with the guest. And then afterwards, when the guest is getting ready to leave, then they should do that exercise about leaving towards the door. And so they get up and wave and give the dog a treat, and then sit down, repeat that a couple times, then 1 step, 2 steps. And if you can't make it all the way to the door, just, we get the 3 steps, and that's the max he can do. If you try to go to 4, he keeps on growling. Back up, always end on a good one. Have a good one, and then basically maybe somebody calls him away, and then he goes away, and then the guest leaves. Or better yet, have the guest put him on a leash and have the guest take him out for a walk as they're leaving. So now I don't need to bark at you because I like going for walks, and the guest is walking me out. And if we're not pulling on a leash or correcting or anything along those lines, if he is barking, again, back up and make an easier version, as we talked about on the video above. Let me see. We also talked for other forms of exercise. We went over when our cookie in the corner, which basically we were just taking a treat like this, show him we have it, throw it there. Well, you're going to look at this one right there, huh? And then I'm going to let him go get it on his own. Now, if we throw it too far away, because I don't think his eyes are all that great, then he might not be seeing it, so I might just throw one a little closer. And then he goes and gets it. And so this is a nice way of introducing scent games. And again, you might come up with a signal for this, like, and then you throw it. So he's like, oh, and you go like this, and then point, and he's going to like, holy cow, there's a bunch of treats. And remember, the eventual situation is we want to take him out for a walk or he's somewhere else. We hide 5 or 6 treats. Then we go like this and point at it, and he knows there's treats there. He's using his nose. He's sniffing the ground. He's burning energy. We've come up with a nice way to get him some exercise without us having to do it ourselves. But also, look for a couple other treat dispensing toys or puzzles on Amazon so you can kind of have different ones to pull out. And that Omega treat ball, that'd be another nice thing for him to get and eat a snack while the guests are here. So it's a way to drain energy, create a positive association, and he's not barking at the guests. All right, so now you found it. You're going to go get it, huh? Okay, so exercise, remember, is best done every couple of hours. There's physical exercise, mental stimulation. For him, I think just the sniff walks are going to be the physical exercise. And then after that, we could do the lick mats, the snuffle mat, do some training, do some scent games, and even tossing a couple of treats up and down the stairs like we talked about sets him up for success. Before you're going to have a guest over, make sure you exercise him. Before you're going to do things, exercise him and get him the Goldilocks amount of exercise. Don't do it too much. Don't do it too little. And ebb and flow. Try a certain number of whatever the exercise is, and then have a guest come over and see how it goes. And then you'll dial it in. Let me see. What else did we go over? Celebrating. Celebrating is rewarding him when he does things on his own voluntarily. That's the word we use for each other. So if somebody says celebrate to me, I usually say my marker word, but if somebody says celebrate to me, I would just be like, and then start petting him. I'm going to take the other person's word for it. Celebrate means that they saw the dog do something desirable, like lay down, and I missed it and forgot to reward him. The more we reward our dog for an activity, the more they will continue doing it. This includes barking. This also includes sitting, laying down, looking at us, coming to us, giving us eye contact. We say that we like these things, but they don't get our attention consistently. The stuff the dog does that we don't like consistently gets our attention. If my goal as a dog is to get your attention, I'm going to do what it works most consistently, which is the stuff we actually don't want. So just flip that and just start making sure that you're doing it. And if we recognize that he's over where the model is and he's going to come over towards me, I would just say, he's already coming anyways, but this is the hand signal. And when he gets here, then I wave, and then I give him that pet. So we want to create that strong lure or cue so that he's like, yeah, boy, they like it when I sit, when I come, when I lay down, when I give him eye contact, and all the rest of that fun stuff. He's allowed on the couch. I would ask him, do those pre-max. So you want to go on the couch? Give him the signal for sit. If he sits, then invite him on the couch. And when he comes on the couch, you can pet him. That can be a reward, or you can give him a treat too. But let's make getting on the couch into a prestige sort of thing. There is prestige for height for dogs, but now I'm inviting you to share this with me. Right now, he's taking it. And so I think that that can create a little bit of a confusion for the dog as to where my place in the hierarchy is. It's secure to know that somebody else is going to take care of things, and I am comfortable and confident that they are going to provide me with the same environment. Then I don't have to worry about the boogeyman. That's there on them. I'm just going to worry about where I'm going to hide my bone or my bully stick is or whatever it is. So a lot of us set our dogs up to fail because we don't tell them what it is we want, like we talked about manners. So the more that we pet our dog when it sits or redirect it into a sit before we pet it, like for petting with a purpose, the more the dog will start sitting to prepay for that. And that's a polite way of saying, I'd like some attention, please. I'm sitting down. And we say yes, and then we pet the dog. And after a while, the dog will sit to prepay for that attention. Petting with a purpose is if the dog wants you to pet it or you want to pet the dog, you're telling the dog to do something else one time. And if it does it, you say your marker or make your marker and then pet the dog. And if it doesn't, you go on to doing other things. If the dog prepays, comes and sits in front of you, say your marker and then make sure you pet them. Otherwise, they'll go back to nudging or pawing at you. And then when they do things on their own, celebrate. Capturing is the other way that we call that, but celebrate those things. Make sure you make her word and pet your dog as much as you can. Eventually, your dog will start doing those activities as opposed to the other ones. We also talked about the importance of rules and structure because that's providing a safe environment for dogs. So not being allowed in the kitchen, not being allowed around the dining table when we're eating. If there's a human with a snack on the couch, maybe the dog's not allowed to be on the carpet here. So we can direct the dog to go to the dog bed, and there's something called the relaxation protocol, which teaches the dog to go to the dog bed and stay on the dog bed while we prepare dinner, while the doorbell rings, while people get up and move around, or whatever it is. I'd like you to work on the stuff we've covered here, but if you're still having this problem in a month, let me know, and I can send you an outline for that, or I can come back and we can do a 1-hour session focus on the relaxation protocol, which is a pretty cool thing. Teaching the dog just to chill on the dog bed while stuff goes on around instead of thinking I have to worry about everything. We also want to pre-max. Pre-max, remember, the less desirable behavior earns me more desirable behavior. When you're letting him out of the kennel, tell him to sit, provided he knows how to sit. So sit, or what the signal is. As soon as he sits, you open the door and let him out. If he doesn't, when you go like that and he doesn't sit, then sit down, pull out your phone, check a couple of emails, wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, stand up and go sit. If he doesn't sit, within 2 seconds, sit down, and this time you sit down for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. But as soon as you say sit and he sits, the door flies open. After a while, he'll start sitting to say, can we open the door? You can do that for letting him outside to go to the potty. You can do it when you're preparing his food. You're going to put his leash on, letting him on the couch, different things like that. Again, we're asking the dog to demonstrate a little bit of, can't think of the word, that deference to you maybe a little bit before I get permission to get on the couch or come out of the kennel or whatever. It just kind of creates and reinforces what I like to refer to as a healthy leader-follower dynamic. The more that he thinks the humans are taking care of things, the less that I need to do it. And the more we pet him with a purpose and things like that, the more that he knows what he can do to earn our affection as opposed to the other. Now, I'd like to have the guardians kind of pick one new trick or cue and really focus on that for each week or 10-day period or whatever long. Usually, I would like you to have it done by a week, 10 days maximum. So I'd like you to practice in like 1 or 2 minute segments. Guardian A is going to practice for 1 minute, and then Guardian B is going to practice for the second minute, so we'll kind of couple them up. But eventually it'd be nice if our male guardian could be the one who's doing this exclusively. Again, creating that positive association. Keep those less than 3 minutes maximum, but like 1 to 2 minutes is ideal, and always end on a good note. And so remember, you're going to do the action first, so you're like, and then lure the dog into whatever it is, and then give them the treat, and then wave, so they understand. I probably wouldn't do this because you're already doing wave, but again, come up with some distinctive hand signals. I'm trying to think, is there anything else you want me to cover? Okay. So now if you do have any questions, please message me. I don't care how long after the session it is. I'm here for you, but I can only help you if you let me know that you still have questions. Can we come over here and sign off? He needs some good motivation. Oh, before I forget, remember he's a little bit like me. He's carrying a little bit more summer weight than we would like him to. So get some fresh green beans. Like for him, for each meal, I'd grab 2 green beans, chop it up into little pieces about that big, and put it in with his food. And that way you can substitute a little bit of his food, and that fiber will help him feel full. Sit. This is my buddy Bogi, and this is Bogi's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.